All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go4CEO channel. This is John the Bomb. Building others means business. And hey, I've always shared with you that not only CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs should be on this channel, but intrapreneurs. And this guy, you better wait and put your butt in the seat, or if you're in the car, if you're listening, or if you're just watching YouTube right now, I'm excited to have this gentleman. His name is Jimi, right? Did I pronounce it correctly? I didn't.
That's right. Yep.
All right. Jimi Gibson. Vice President of Brand Communication. He's the VP at Thrive Agency, a TED speaker, a member of Forbes Agency Council with over 25 years of experience in marketing. And in an earlier career, he was actually a magician. So he's got some tricks up his sleeve today. Jimi brings a unique perspective to brand messaging, audience engagement, and conversion strategies. So he's also the creator of the Magic Script, trademarked, a brain-based messaging framework that helps brands build trust, spark curiosity, and drive action. And oh, by the way, subscribe to the channel. I don't do that enough in the beginning part. I'll give you one command: subscribe right now. Let's go. All right, Jimi, bring it away. Entrepreneur, how are you doing today? Thanks for coming on the Go4CEO channel.
I'm good, John. And you passed the first marketing test to promote the show and ask everyone to hit subscribe. So I'm in the right place today.
I do forget a lot. So probably one of the reasons, maybe we need to increase subscriber base, but awesome stuff. So look, it's super excited to have you on the Thrive Agency. I did a little research. It's a pretty big firm. A lot of agencies we've had on a little bit smaller, maybe some SMB style, but you guys have really packed it in, have employees all around the world. And I know that your experience is going to bring a ton of value today. So as an intrapreneur, we talked a little bit offline. You're making this, something that you own, right, in part of the Thrive Agency and the brand that you're putting out there, and just keep on marketing. So why don't we go with a little bit of that story? And if you have a little bit of background on the Thrive Agency, we'd love to get started with that part.
Yeah, sure. So Thrive Agency was founded by Matt Bowman about 20 years ago. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary in October, which is kind of a purple unicorn in the digital agency space. And it actually started out as a web development company. And so, he'd deliver the website, and then all of a sudden the clients would come back and go, well, this is great. Nobody's coming to the website. How do we drive traffic? And so that started to add the service of SEO in the mix, which has been a little bit disrupted over the last year with all of the AI and LLM searches coming up. We might get into that. But yeah, so the decision was made early on that the company was just going to help business owners navigate the power of the internet. And so if you have that simple phrase, then that's your filter on how you go about growth. And so there was pretty consistent growth in those areas. Once a client asked, hey, the SEO is going great. How do these ads work? And so another service was added. And then Matt met a business partner in about 2016, and they put some audacious goals out there and really wanted to grow the client base to 1,000 active clients by 2020. And so there was huge amount of growth during that time frame. And I actually came on board right after that huge growth to kind of blow up their strategy department. And then through that work, and I had some other experience over my career in leadership and management, I actually was leading the teams that did all the work. And so you can imagine, after 4 years of super growth, there was a lot of squeaky bolts and groans and moans that needed to be fixed. And so worked on that part of it. And yeah, then I would say over the last 8 to 9 months, I've been in this new role and really just want to help other businesses out and talk about some of the things that we've learned over those 20 years.
It's interesting, right? When you experience a rapid growth phase, many loose ends are left behind, as they say. But it's neat to be able to bring in, strategic executives, people that kind of have that awareness. I'd love to dive a little bit even deeper on that. So when you first came in, new environment, new agency, certainly with a lot of expertise in running teams, and though, what were some of the things as an entrepreneur that you took ownership of right away? Were there the relationships? Were there the strategy? Were you trying to tweak some things? What were you doing those first 90 to 180 days?
Yeah, I would say what was evident, because everybody talked about the good old days and how everybody sat elbow to elbow, they were able to get together for meetings. My background, I've worked at small agencies, I've worked at international agencies, and I guess I always enjoyed being able to know who was on a project and what was happening at any given moment. Certainly, you can have dashboards, we have project management software, all that type of thing. And so I basically just went on a how painful is life tour. And I talked to clients, I talked to teams, whether it be an account manager, whether it be a salesperson that we call a marketing consultant. I talked to the people doing the work, the SEO team, the organic social team, the paid social team. And really the theme that kept coming up was, um, I feel isolated. I don't really know who my team members are. I would love to collaborate and be able to do the best work possible for my clients, but I don't feel that's possible with our current structure. And so when you've got 200 employees and you have 1,000 active clients, and you have a team member who is an account manager trying to figure out where a project is and tracing, through the spaghetti bowl of who's on first, it causes a lot of stress and a lot of pain and a lot of inefficiency. And so I went out and said, there's got to be a better way. Let's look at organizational models that are effective. What are other agencies doing? I asked other agency owners. Part of the Forbes Council is being able to ask those questions. What pain have you experienced? The trouble that we found was we're larger than about 95% of other agencies. And so most agencies are in that 20 to 40 employee range. Um, and nobody had really experienced what we were experiencing. And so I did a bunch of reading and came across this matrix organizational structure, which is basically dividing the company up into teams. And the first thing that it said when you read reviews about a matrix organizational structure is it's great, but there are some faults in it because you have two bosses. And so the boss related to a matrix group, and I'll break it down in a little bit, and then the functional boss of like delivery of SEO, delivery of paid media. We don't have multidisciplinary folks. We want, brain surgeons in the SEO world and paid media world working on a client's project because we believe they bring an extra level of that expertise. And so basically we decided we're going to do this. And we divided the entire company up into 4 teams and divided the clients up into 4 teams. And that's a great way to run a business, but not 16 years after you've been in business. And so we had a couple of things that we wanted to make sure we did the right way. And I'm happy to dig into that. But yeah, let me take a breath and see if that's kind of where you want to go with this discussion.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's very interesting, right? When you have had success and then you bring in a new leadership, I think from the top of the house, you start thinking, okay, well, is there anything that we're missing? Are we not seeing the forest from the trees? What are we doing, in this next phase after rapid growth? So it's a cool story for you as the entrepreneur, right? Coming in and developing those strategies and now looking at this system that maybe has an implementation piece to it, but you tweaked it. So yeah, keep going on the tweak side of things. And I think it's very interesting to kind of find out, what came out of that in the first 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. So I think what really was the pain from the top was the goals where, you're setting your 3, 5, 7 year goals, and we want to be twice the size that we are right now. And then you look at scale and you go, well, the way in which we're doing the work and the capacity associated with the work that we have, how would we be able to layer on double that? And certainly there's some economies of scales and some efficiencies that would be realized, but then you start looking at, the cost of the team, what is the churn rate? If we grow too fast, are we going to lose the clients that we have? All of those types of things. Because, we had pretty good tenure with the clients that we had at that point, and we didn't want to lose any. And so we had a couple of things that we wanted to do. Number one, we didn't want to lose an employee through the shuffle. We didn't want to lose a client through the shuffle. And so that was very important. And then the next thing is you cannot pull the rug out from everybody within the organization all at the same time. And so we decided we would start with one team, and that would be the test team. And so we were real creative, and we had the the alpha team. And that alpha team was going to run the process through the paces and identify all of the gaps and the squeaky joints. And then we went on a PR tour, and I met with every single team in the organization. And I said, look, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're going to do it. It's not going to work perfectly. It's going to be messy. There are going to be some painful points, but we want to empower you to raise your hand and say, I think we got a problem here. And once we gave people the permission to raise their hand, once they understood that we knew it wasn't going to be perfect and we weren't trying to put lipstick on a pig, as they say, then that group started in March of that year, and we had a goal to launch the rest of the teams at the end of July. Well, what happened was when people were able to work in a smaller environment, so basically we were creating 4 boutique agencies within a larger agency, and you gain all the benefits of acting like a boutique agency, but then you get all the extra stuff that comes with being a bigger agency, right? And so when we sort of dialed it back, and I actually had pictures from when the company was that smaller agency, and I said, hey, how many of y'all are still here that remember that? And how many of y'all would like to operate in that way? Oh, yeah. And so painted that picture. And when that group got together, they had so much fun. They started being evangelists for the new way. And we actually launched the 3 other teams 2 months ahead of schedule. And it wasn't perfect, but we didn't lose any employees. We didn't lose any clients that we could see from this process. And then obviously we over documented, we over communicated. There were certainly a lot more meetings in the beginning that were required, but then those tapered off. We had a playbook, we had a vocabulary that everybody was aware of. We called these leagues, and then there were teams within the leagues. And so we had 4 leagues. We had 4 teams within each league. There was somebody that led the league. There was somebody that led a team. We still lost, we didn't lose the functional reporting back to the subject matter experts. So the director of SEO was not let go. The director of SEO still met with the team. And then we had to have this collaboration from an HR perspective about who's doing client reviews, who's speaking into any situations that we might have, what happens when we have a client escalation. And so, yeah, I would say that was the plan. And it wasn't smooth, but it wasn't gut-wrenchingly painful because of the preparation that we did 8 months ahead of bringing it to the rest of the company.
It's so interesting as you're sharing this story, and GO4CEO community, there's an old book called If It Ain't Broke, Break It. Break it, right? So that's what Jimi did, right? He came in and you would think, hey, man, 4 years of explosive growth, incredible, and we're doing everything fine. Don't worry about it. But it sounds like the founder and management team knew that they had someone special in you, and you brought in some different dynamics. And it's really interesting to hear, a lot of big corporations. I'm a commercial banker by trade, and I, at a bigger bank that I was with, I remember all these pilots pilot this, they're piloting this, and they're piloting this. And some of them blew up. They weren't successful, but some of them that were, like you said, that pilot team became evangelistic and shared with the rest of the teams like, hey, no, this is going to be awesome. You're going to love it. All those types of things. So really, really cool stuff. And that's why I love entrepreneurs inside of companies, because you came in as, a boss of mindset, a boss of things that you knew what to do in the past, but you also were nimble and worked with the team that was there and was willing to grow from their current growth to a different strategy. So really, really neat stuff. So, obviously your, VP titles and branding. So we want to, hit on that part for the Thrive Agency as well. What were some of the things that you first did in that space where I know that podcasting is recent to kind of the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, but what were some of the developments and ways that you thought of over the last 2 years of what you do specifically, and maybe even the magic script of what you have developed.
Yeah. So let me go back to the matrix organizational structure. It wasn't all on me. There was obviously many, many people involved in that. And
Sure.
I just wanted to at least champion that, because if we were going to grow, that was the only path forward. So it was almost like we're burning the boats, right? And so once people knew we were burning the boats, then we sort of had to make it work. But yeah, there were a lot of people involved, but thank you for that recap. So one of the things that, and you mentioned my career as a professional magician, I kind of don't have a problem standing in front of a crowd. I love to communicate a lesson. I like to inspire people. And so I just, again, with that entrepreneur mindset, I thought, I started looking at our YouTube channel. I started looking at the media mentions, and I'm like, wow, we've got a really good story here. Nobody's telling it. And so I started writing articles. I started investigating ways that we could get our name out there. And just sort of the perfect storm happened with all of this AI upheaval that we're having related to SEO. And, for those leaders out there that are scared, I would say if you've been doing SEO the white hat right way, you're probably okay. But you do need to pay attention to the way these large language models are presenting information. So Google switched over to AI mode as a choice in early May. I would imagine it's not too far on the horizon where it's going to be the default. And these large language models are actually looking for more than just a keyword search in a search engine. So typically a keyword search is you type in whatever you're looking for. In your case, investment banking. How can I get a loan for the company? It's going to search the types of businesses that would qualify in Google's eyes to return that result. And then you just end up with a page of blue links, right? And then it's up to you to decide what those choices are. Are you going to go for the first one, the second one? Are you going to click on the ad, whatever the case may be? These large language models are actually defaulting to an authority score that Google has sort of laid out, which is the acronym EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And so they're ranking a business across those. And it's not just a go out and find a keyword. They're looking at Reddit threads. They're looking at PR coverage. They're looking at social media interactions. Right now we have Instagram showing up in searches. YouTube has been showing up in searches for quite some time. And they're basically creating a profile, and they're looking for brand mentions. And so I thought it was a good idea for us to be doing this. Not that the company hadn't done it in the past, but I didn't ask permission. I just started doing it, right? Because I knew that it was going to benefit the organization. And so the owner came to me back in the fall of last year and said, hey, things are shifting around. Thanks for everything that you've done. But we're in a situation now where we feel like we can help other businesses, not only our clients, but people who aren't our clients, figure this out. We'd like for you to be the face of the company. And of course, the first thing is like, what? Are you crazy? And then the second part is like, oh my gosh, when can I start? And so I started working through what exactly should that mean. And so obviously articles, podcasts, I think this is going to sound insane, but I think I'm up to about like 65 podcasts this year.
Wow.
And so I've learned a lot about what to do and what not to do. Continue to write articles. I made a commitment January 1st that I would publish a video every day, Monday through Friday on LinkedIn. And I kept that up. I got to 137 videos, and then I started reading stuff about LinkedIn and how they were treating video. They weren't pushing video as much. And so I had to pivot. And I said, the goal is to get the word out. If they're not favoring videos at this point, I can still tell the same content. And so I have switched that over, I guess, in about July, and I do see engagements and my followers increasing. I'll be training the sales team on how to use LinkedIn appropriately to help brand mentions, because it can't just be me, right? We should empower the rest of the organization. And I know that's a scary place for CEOs and owners to go, like, oh my God, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? Well, I think that starts with what is the culture? Do you believe you have smart people? If you believe you had smart people, you shouldn't have to police them, but you should encourage them to be part of the conversation. And yeah, I would say I'm sort of in maybe late phase one, early phase two. I look at this as a long game. You're not going to influence the algorithm instantly. There's certainly things that you can do to cheat the algorithm. We're talking about putting out our own podcast, not as a sales pitch, but as an educational and trust component. So yeah, I would say there's been a lot of things, and we have conversations weekly about, is this working? Is it not working? I've got 31 articles or participations within a panel discussion in articles on Forbes. Have cataloged all of those URLs. We are running it through our system to say, is this something we want to keep investing in? Certainly the authority of Forbes is great. Do we want to keep going down this path, or is there something else where we can tell our story in a better way and reach a wider audience? So
Yeah, and look, podcasting is one of those beasts, right, in the marketplace that allow different audiences to see what Thrive is about, what you personally have done, and how you're mentioning those stories. From a team perspective, what's kind of the hierarchical structure right now for you? Are you in that scenario where you have a specific team that you manage, or are you kind of broadly touching each part of the organization?
well, I went from about 130 reports and 12 direct reports to zero. So, functionally, I'm sort of carving my own path. I do partner with the sales team, and I do partner with our demand gen team, which is basically our internal marketing team, R&D. We've been testing out some cold outreach with video. Video this year, 82% of all traffic on the internet is video related. So I still believe in video.
Mm.
And yeah, so we come up, like I said, I do a blog internally. I have about a 20-minute video that I do on our platform and put it on the YouTube channel. And then I have some videos that the demand gen team sent me yesterday and said, hey, we need these because we're going to be doing some various promotions. And so at this point, and then I'm going to conferences. And so that's another part that I didn't mention, where we have picked we don't specialize in any particular industry, but we do great work for a variety of industries. And so I've been speaking at those industry events, and then just got back from Austin a week and a half ago for an industry event. And so those are great opportunities to be in front of folks. So yeah, I would say I don't have any direct reports, but I collaborate with pretty much everybody in the company, and then obviously on the executive team, and making sure that the activities that I'm doing are meeting the KPIs that we want as a corporation.
And that's the story of an entrepreneur, right? You take it from having a pretty big team to now being shared. Hey, this is the new role. Creativity, entrepreneurship. Bootstrapping in a sense, right? That mindset of being able to grind it out and find different ways is really cool to hear that you've kind of transitioned and you're taking on that opportunity with full force. So, kudos to you. A lot of times people cower Go4CEO community in changing, right? And changes can be hard on people, especially human beings, right? We don't necessarily like to change all the time, but it's such a cool process that you've gone through from coming into the organization, disrupting some things, creating a great atmosphere, leading a big group, and now, heading this particular force of nature in the marketing side, so of the branding. So, as an entrepreneur, it's always interesting. The pocketbook is still, I guess, controlled, right, in a sense, from the top up. What are some things that you do from that perspective? Podcasts, you don't necessarily need to pay to get on them all the time, or there's different ways to kind of be a part of different speaking engagement. I saw that obviously we mentioned a TEDx. What were some of the other ways that, from a pocketbook perspective, you got lean and mean in this particular role?
Yeah. I would say we really haven't had much of a budget for this particular type of role. It is a shared role between demand gen and the sales team. And so I basically have to put together a proposal and an expectation of ROI in some way. I mean, I wouldn't say there's any direct way. Like I mentioned, the Forbes does provide some expertise and authority. Whether that's going to turn in, we do have leads that come in that say they have read something that I wrote in Forbes. The other component to it, I think I mentioned that I was interested in video, right? My path actually started out as a graphic designer. I progressed to creative director. I ran an agency, and I have been pretty hands-on. And I always feel if I'm leading a team, I should be able to do what they're doing so that I have the, um, I guess, trust that they know what I'm talking about, right? And so I made a commitment about 18 months ago to figure out how to do video. And so I can't tell you how many YouTube channels I watched and how many lights I bought that were junk and had to send back. So I self-educated on video production. I self-educated on video editing. I went through a bunch of microphones. I had started my own podcast that had 54 episodes that I did on nights and weekends to understand how to edit audio. I wrote a book to have the practice to know how to write. I have taken courses. So all of these things basically then, as the owner is thinking, going, well, he already knows how to do this and he already knows how to do this. We don't have to have this whole team. Now, I do have the support of the demand gen team if we have designers or, if I can't get to something. So I'm not on an island, but I enjoy doing it. And so the volume of content that I'm able to put out as sort of a solo entrepreneur allows me to control the message, make sure it's done the way that it needs to be done, have a faster path to launching that content. And yeah, I would say I'm a lifelong learner, and that's been a secret sauce. And um, I was okay with the first videos being horrible. And I would show them to my wife, and she would go, "What in the world are you doing with your eyebrows?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What am I doing with my eyebrows?" And so I'd go back and look, and like, yeah, that does look kind of creepy. And then, like, just be okay. All right, I'm going to focus on not doing all these gyrations with my eyebrows. And then after 137 videos, I'll look and I go, oh, okay, yeah, that might actually be worth watching. So that's kind of a long answer to your question, but I think uh, as a entrepreneur and as somebody with a background, you kind of have to look at what is my next thing that I'm going to push through a barrier or get uncomfortable about and just walk into the unknown and just go, I'll figure it out. I got a lot of people who are rooting for me and I have resources if I need them. But the minute you say, what do you want me to do next? You've just lost your value as an employee or a team member. So
I love it. I love it. I'll selfishly plug my book coming out. It's called The 4A Formula: Untangle
nice.
Any Challenge and Think Like a CEO. So, Go4CEO community, Jimi just went through a perfect example of assess, align yourself with the right people and team, take accountability, and take action, right? So, those are the 4A formula there. And I love hearing that because it really is in any different level of life, right? Faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. You could take any one of those F's and assess, align, take accountability, and attack. And you really did that and showed that and are proving that right now. Once again, even after 25, 30 years of great experiences, great skill sets that you've built, you renewed yourself, you reimagined yourself, and you started thinking and talking and going through things and finding ways to be better and more improved. So that's really, really cool stuff. And that's the entrepreneur mindset, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we love seeing about entrepreneurs and how they can affect a business that's pretty darn big. What would you say? Top 5% agency in the world of Thrive Agency. Yet, Jimmy's making a difference in different ways. So, one of the things that we talk about here at the Go4CEO community is client experience. So I'd love to understand if you do touch that. First of all, I guess that's my question to make sure that we can hit that. Do you touch any of the client experience in that journey?
I used to, from a delivery standpoint, we do have a separate team for account management, but I would say on a day-to-day basis, no, but I certainly have long-standing experience in relation to clients and what they're looking for and what they need and the pains that they're experiencing for sure.
Okay. And then engagement, so it's CEO, right? Client experience, engagement, and then operational excellence. So from an engagement standpoint, obviously now from going from a bigger team to kind of a solo mindset, but still having the great support that you have, what are some of the things that you do, I guess, exclusively to your entrepreneur ways? Is of engaging with the teams or engaging with clients or engaging with outside vendors and people that you need to help you do your business?
Yeah. Well, we have an interesting thing at Thrive. We have a pretty strong culture. Most agencies have attrition of about 30 to 50% a year, which is insane. We've been able to manage about 5% voluntary attrition over the last 5 years. We have people that leave for a variety of reasons and they come back because they're like, yeah, the grass isn't greener. We call them boomerang thrivers. And so every Thursday, today being Thursday, as we're recording this, we have what we call Thank a Thriver Thursday. And so we encourage everybody in the organization to just think about somebody that helped you out or meant something to you and thank them for that. And so I really enjoy that part. And so I'll just start up a conversation with people and say, hey, what's going on in your world? Things going okay. And so I think it's proactive, not only complimenting somebody on making them feel seen and heard, but then asking what's going on in their world. I participate in a variety of sales group meetings, the executive meeting. I mentioned the demand generation. We have a special focus on local coverage for clients. And so we're talking about that. We're looking at AI. And so I'll just end up inviting myself to meetings. Now that I don't manage a bunch of folks, I miss that interaction. And so I want to kind of know what's going on within the organization. We've joined a couple of associations. I have been on a podcast and was invited to be on an advisory council for a particular part of our industry. And so I'm excited about that. The first board meeting is coming up in a couple of months. And so I'm engaging with those other board members. I, again, work with the sales team and I love being on those initial calls because in my role, the way it's set up, there's incentive for me to bring in business. Right. And so there's monetary reasons why I'm going to be pushed. Not that I need that. I have more of an intrinsic motivator, but I want to hear straight from the client. What is their pain? What are they interested in? Because we work with 1,000 active clients across all industries, I'm naturally curious about what makes their business tick. What pain are they experiencing? So, yeah, I wouldn't say there's any formal approach. I just stick my foot in the door, whether it's internally or externally, and just find some ability to connect with that person. You mentioned the magic script. I think one of the things that my training in magic has allowed me to do is I can have a trick in my pocket. I can walk into any room and I have zero fear about walking up to somebody and starting a conversation. Whether I do a trick or not, I can fall back on that and say, hey, um, I've got something interesting. Would you mind giving me 2 minutes of your time? Because I've done that trick 1,000 times, I know how it's going to land and I know it's going to be a fun experience for both of us. And so I think just that mindset allows me to go into that. And so there's 3 components, and I love this framework that you're talking about for your book. I definitely want to get that. So keep me posted when that comes out. I would say any kind of leadership or marketing communication needs to follow this path. The first one is connection. You have to make a connection with the person that you are engaging with, whether that's in person, over a Zoom screen, or in a written communication. And so once you have made that connection and it feels good back and forth, that's actually a release of oxytocin. So that's a neurotransmitter that everything's going well. We're having a good conversation. I'd like this to continue, right? Now you've opened up permission to bring in that curiosity phase. And so that curiosity phase might, as we started to talk, you're telling me about a challenge. So, you're talking about your book and maybe you're having a challenge figuring out how to publish that book. And so I might open up the conversation with curiosity and say, well, what if I told you there was a way that you could publish your book? It would be proofread and all of the digital asset handled for, an ebook, a Kindle, and the printed copy, and you don't have to be on 3 meetings. And so I don't, whatever came up in our initial conversation, you might be talking about all the pain and agony that you're experiencing. So now your brain starts to go, what? That's like, okay, you've hit me right between the eyes. What? Wow, I don't even know how that's possible, right? And so one of the most powerful phrases to elicit curiosity is what if? And so a magician does the same thing, right? I have a deck of cards. What if you just thought about a card and I told you what that card was, right? And so now your brain starts to crank. That's actually a release of dopamine. And we've heard about dopamine and social media addiction, but it's not the addiction to social media, it's the expectation of a conclusion or a reward, right? And so when you post on social media, you want a like, a share, a comment, but you're wanting something to happen. You want closure to that. You are expecting a reward of some kind. And so if you keep that dopamine level going, it's going to wear you out, right? If I kept going on and on about all of this stuff related to the book, you're going to go, oh my gosh, Jimmy, just get to the point, right? So you have to know your audience. You have to know your crowd. You have to know how long you can sustain that curiosity. And then I have to give you the solution to whatever it is that we're talking about related to publishing your book. Same thing with a magic trick. I can go on and on and on, but sooner or later, you're going to go, just tell me what the card is, right? So if I time that correctly, then it's like this burst of what? That's actually a release of serotonin. And that's like, oh my gosh, it all makes sense now. Everything is right with the world. And so that could be in a social media post. You talk about LinkedIn, and it's usually the first 2 lines before you get to that more button. The first line has to be a connection line. That person has to know this is something for me. And then the first line, the second line is raising curiosity. So somebody will click that more button. And there's obviously technical things that go into that, right? You have 65 characters on the first line, 45 characters on the second line. If you're addressing your team, you need to say, you know what? Last quarter's results were not where we wanted them to be. You're all aware of that. I'm not going to sit here and beat you up. So what have you done? You've just established rapport. But what if I told you there was a way to actually blow last quarter's results out of the water? And everybody's like, what? How is that possible? And so then you start to lay out the plan. So I think it can work in any scenario, any particular situation. And I use the same thing when I'm talking to a vendor, when I'm talking to one of our team members, when it's just kind of a natural thing. But until you practice that muscle, it just sort of feels weird. And now a sales conversation becomes a dialogue that's perfectly suited for the person that you're speaking with. You're not trying to force something.
I'm interested in understanding. So the connect, curiosity, and then solution.
Conversion. Yeah.
Oh,
so
conversion.
The interesting thing, if you took every magic trick, whether it be a vanish, an appearance, a transformation, a transposition, a mind reading, they all boil down to 13 major effects. And so anytime I'm thinking about a communication, what magic do I want to perform for a team member, for a customer, for a prospect, for a vendor? And as long as my conversation is focused on that one magic trick, then it's not scatterbrained and somebody can follow the path. And you never have to say, I'd like to make your problems disappear. Like, we don't have to be corny about that. But the structure of the language is all towards that conversion or climax of the magic trick that provides the magic effect that's happening within that communication. So
fantastic stuff. Well, hey, we said at the beginning of the podcast that there was going to be some magic, and you just laid down some incredible stuff there. Super, super engaging, area. And what a great way to engage, right? To be focused on every conversation where you can keep or pique that curiosity and get to that, scenario where you get that serotonin going and all that stuff and the dopamine. So really, really interesting stuff. Last one is, operations. Right now in this new role, obviously managing a team, you probably had some KPI things that you were always managing, or directives, or scenarios. But in this solopreneur, entrepreneur type scenario, what kind of tools are you using for operations? Are you using some new softwares? You mentioned AI. Obviously, every company's kind of starting to investigate that the last 6 to 12 months. What are some things operationally that you could share with us from that perspective as an entrepreneur at the moment?
Yeah. So obviously, ChatGPT is one of the most popular ones that people use for, used to be mostly words, but they've actually gotten really great at pictures. I would say with the new release of 5, the nuances related to personality and telling it what tone you want is great. But the other thing that you have to realize, and there's just a warning shot, I actually have a LinkedIn post that dropped about 45 minutes ago, so folks can go look at that. Um, the You can't just turn over your creativity to ChatGPT, because it does not know your story. It does not have empathy. It does not have emotion. It wants to be very nice. It wants to be very polite. It's not going to talk about your scars and bruises. So I would say that's a tool, but don't turn over that as a ghostwriter. Midjourney, Ideogram are great for creating visuals. I'm sort of old school when it comes to the videos, so I have a mirrorless camera, and then I use the Adobe suite of products. So I use Illustrator, Adobe Premiere to edit video. There are many other AI-based tools like Descript that will actually chop it up into little pieces, give you some clips for social media. There's another program called Opus Clips that will do the same thing. It will put subtitles. You can film it in horizontal and it'll convert it to vertical. Yeah, you have to know the platform that you're using. We have project management software that we use internally to manage all the things that I'm working on. So yeah, I would say I have a Rodecaster that I use. I have a shotgun mic by Rode that I use for, getting on podcasts. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. No, those are all great tools, right? From the operational standpoint, I'm so enthralled with, the business within the business that you've created, and the entrepreneur side, and from the big team to now the solopreneur mindset, and you're adapting and growing and becoming and doing things that are really exceptional, especially in the entrepreneur story world, right? And we all love a good story as human beings, and like you said, as a magician, that impact at the end. I still don't understand how the heck you guys, if I'm thinking of a 9 of hearts and you have a 52 deck, like, how do you know? But anyway, we'll leave that for a different time. So
Well, no, we can investigate that now.
okay, well, let's do it. Let's give them a
Well, why did you
bonus.
say 9 of hearts?
I don't know. It came to mind. Typically, hearts is something that I have some socks that are king of hearts, so I get attracted to the hearts cards.
Interesting. Well, have you noticed that deck of cards behind me that's been sitting there the whole time?
All right, I need my glasses here. Oh, okay. Look at that.
Now, we didn't set any of this up, right? You just came
No.
up with the word, the card 9 of hearts to begin with. So if I take this deck of cards out and I start to spread through this deck of cards, oh, wait a minute. There's actually one and only one that's reversed in the deck. Now, I just kind of flipped one over before I logged in. And if I turn that over and it was the 9 of hearts,
What the what?
that would
Come
be
on.
insane.
Hey, Go4CEO community, this is totally impromptu. 1000%. Did I not say anything off camera, and I just came to my heart and soul to say 9 of hearts? Wow. I don't know how you guys do it. It is one of those tricks that is amazing. So, wow. All
So
right. Well,
that might be a clip you could post. I don't know.
that's going to definitely be a short, my friend. Wow, wow. What a cool experience. Well, thank you for that moment, and the genuine, just incredible heart that you've given to this. This project is new. in some ways, right? Obviously, your expertise lends itself to be that nimble creator and person that is out there now, growing this part of the business with Thrive and doing what you do best, right? Which is keep on learning every day of your life, keep on growing, keep on doing things to move. So to end the story here, what are some of the ways that people can get a hold of you? What are some of the ways that obviously they can engage with Thrive? And is there a special code that they're tracking based on some of the work that you're doing so that obviously some of those KPIs flow through you?
Yeah, I would say I'm on LinkedIn every day. I made a commitment. I think the people that we can impact are on LinkedIn. So would love for people to follow me and give me feedback on anything that I put out there. And, Thrive Agency, that's the URL, thriveagency.com. A lot of great resources. We publish multiple articles a week. I publish one once a month with video. Um, you know, if somebody needs some help with digital marketing, I'm happy to be that go-between. You can DM me through LinkedIn and we can set something up and just chat. If you're looking for a second opinion and you think something doesn't seem right with our marketing, hey, I'll give you some time just to kind of workshop that and think through. I love strategy. I love solving puzzles, that type of thing. So I would say those are the avenues, and certainly mention that you heard me on this podcast and would love for that to be part of our conversation. And if you learned something, you had a question about it, I'm happy to jump on and answer that.
Well, Go4CEO community, and if you're a guest today watching the show, again, subscribe to the channel, but more importantly, go to LinkedIn, Jimi, Jimi. So a little bit different, a little bit unique, Jimi Gibson, Gibson. Hit him up, have a conversation, DM, be interactive, and look at some of those posts and newsletters and articles that he's posting. Really, really great stuff. So thank you, Jimi, for being on the Go4CEO channel as an intrapreneur doing big things. Love it.
Great. Thanks, John. Had a great time.